It's very difficult to get your money back once you've lost it to a scam artist. So the best word of advice I can give you is don't get involved in them in the first place, and then you don't have to worry about getting your money back afterwards. The scam artists are very good at what they do. You would be very surprised at how successful they are, but some of the scams that I've seen have been so ingenious that I would even pause for a minute to think, wow, that might not be a bad idea kind of thing. So they are very good at what they do. And you have to be very, very careful about who you deal with, how you deal with them, so that you can protect yourselves and not be victimized by frauds. We have assisted the scam artists to some extent in becoming more vulnerable over the years. Even the 15 years that I've been doing this and coming out and speaking, they seem to have gotten better at what they do, and we seem to be becoming more and more vulnerable, part of it being because it's our own fault. So we want to take those steps necessary to protect ourselves. Why have we become more vulnerable? Well, we have become a very convenience-based society. We need everything now. We want instant gratification, and it seems to accelerate every single year. We're now much more comfortable giving out personal information to people, buying things, without ever facing people. It used to always be that we had to go out to the store to go out and buy the thing that we thought about that we needed. Now we can sit down at our computer or pick up our telephone and order the item and have the item delivered to us within a day or two. And the example I always use is one of the greatest inventions of all time is the pay at the pump. Now we don't have to go and walk into the store and hand the cashier the money. It used to be 25 years ago that you pump the gas in your car, see how much you bought, and at that time it was $5 to $10 worth of gas to fill up your tank. That's a whole separate issue. And then you had to walk into the clerk and you hand him the $5 or the $10 bill and you go back out in your car and you get in your car. And think about it now. For those of you that like the pay at the pump like I do and you can drive up and everything, how annoyed do you become when you drive up and let's say there's 3 pumps, so there's cars on either side. And first of all, it's annoying enough that all 3 are being used on your side. That's one thing. And you have to actually sit and wait. So you pull in behind a car that looks like they're finishing pumping the gas. And they finish, and you say, okay, good, I'm ready to go. I go in. And they put the gas cap in their car, and then they walk in to the convenience store to actually have to pay. You go, oh my gosh, what do we have to do here? Then worse. What's worse is they don't go right up to the cashier because they need a gallon of milk. So they have to go in the store. And how annoyed do we now become because we have things to do. We've got to move on. We can't wait around to pump our gas. That's how our mentality is. The example I use is sometimes I will pick the gas station that I'm going to use based on how quick the pumps are, because I don't want to sit there and have it go and fill as it fills up my tank. I'm, again, a very busy person, and I've got things that I've got to do. So we become very convenience-based. Buying things on the internet, very easy thing to do now. I'm getting into all the gadget things, and so I don't have to go to the library anymore because I have an electronic book. And I just can sit right in the comfort of my own living room and get new books. I can actually go to the library from my living room and get books. So it's all, why should I have to get in the car, drive to the library, look through all the books, although it is fun. But I can just get it right there. So things are moving much faster, and we're becoming more expectant of those things moving faster. And as a result, we've let our guard down. Before coming over here this morning, I stopped at the bank. I didn't go in and see a teller. I went up to the machine, put in a card, said how much money I wanted. I actually had to make some deposits, so I had a couple of checks. I just slipped them in the machine, and boom, I'm done, and I'm gone. Well, just that example is I'm not going face-to-face with a teller. They're not seeing me. They're not seeing who I am. They don't know, the machine doesn't know who I am other than the numbers that I type in that will give me money. I don't have to go to the bank between 9 and 4 either. I can go at 2 o'clock in the morning if I need to get money. So we're becoming very convenience-based, and we're buying things over the computer or the telephone. And as a result, we have to give up some of our personal protections, our financial protections. When we go to a ATM machine, we punch in numbers, and the machine spits money at us. Before, we had to go into a teller, possibly wait in line, but the teller knew us. We would go down to our branch, and the tellers knew us, and they would know. So if somebody went up and said they were Mike Danaher and tried to withdraw money from my account, undoubtedly the tellers in the branch that I go to would know who I was, and they say, that's not who this person says he is. Now, if somebody goes up to a machine with an ATM card and has the right numbers to punch in, that machine thinks it's me and will spit money out at the person there. So for that convenience of being able to go to the bank at 2 o'clock in the morning, I've given up some of that protection that I had before. We go in and buy things with credit cards at the store and don't have to carry that much cash around anymore. A lot of times we're getting better deals because we're going on the internet, and the company doesn't have to have a brick and mortar store. It just has a warehouse that can just ship things out of. Maybe the expenses and overhead are less, so maybe we can get it a few dollars cheaper. We can get it faster. We can deal with each other over the internet now and use auction sites like eBay, or going on to places like Craigslist, which I'll get into a little more detail later, to buy and sell things. And so we just, why put an ad in the classified section when I can just put it out there on the internet and take care of it right there? It makes it much easier. And all of these factors have conspired to create a fertile field for our scam artists. It's very difficult now to differentiate between the legitimate merchants and the illegitimate merchants. You go on the internet, you don't know necessarily that this particular merchant is a legitimate one or a scam artist. So we have to go a long way toward protecting ourselves. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, become aware of the warning signs. Understand what the scam artists are trying to do so that you can avoid that sort of thing. The first adage, I may not say this only once today, which is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So we have to keep our wits about us. Sometimes we hear about these great deals, and all of a sudden we put on all kinds of blinders and lose all common sense, and go ahead and follow through on these offers that have. Another warning sign is a rush to action. If the entity that you're dealing with is pushing you to do it right now, it doesn't have to be on the internet either. It could be somebody coming to your door, pushing you right now. That should send a warning sign up. One of the things that scam artists like to do is try to get you before you have time to really think about and analyze a situation. So we need to always act like good consumers. When you say to yourself, well, this sounds like a great deal in particular, if you stepped back a second and you said to yourself, what would a good consumer do? If it was not me, what if one of my friends came up to me and said, hey, I got this deal? What would I say to them? Now, in this case, the deal happens to be with you, but try to look at it objectively or independently and say, if a friend of mine came up to me and offered me this deal, what would I tell him or her? Would they go through with the deal? What should they think about? And those are the types of things that we should be thinking about. There are all types of scams out there. I could go on forever talking about the different types of scams that are there. And we'll touch on a number of them this morning. But they all seem to play on the same thing, which is to part you from your money without giving you anything in return. One of the big ones that we're seeing now, we've seen it in the Binghamton area, are the home improvement scams. We have a group who are very familiar to us that are going through neighborhoods telling people that they can do their driveways for a really good price. And two things happen if the homeowner agrees to it. One is they get an inferior job, and two, they pay twice as much for it that they would have had to pay if they had just had a legitimate person come to them. So let's use the scenario. Somebody comes up to your door, says, hey, I noticed there's some bare spots in your driveway, or that your driveway started to deteriorate, or I can give you a good price because you have a gravel driveway and we can put blacktop on it, give you a great price. Let's use the adage that I just told you about. Let's assume your friend came up to you and said, hey, this driveway guy came up to my door and said they could give me a great deal on putting in this new driveway. What do you think? What would you say to him? You'd say to them, get estimates. Have you ever heard of these people? How do you know who they are? What's the price they're going to give you? Do you know what a good price would be for your driveway? Have you ever checked into it and seen it? Wouldn't you think that would be the most reasonable thing to do in this particular circumstance? And undoubtedly the driveway paver is saying to you, hey, I'm just here right now. I've done a job down the street. I've done a job on the local highway, and we have some leftover stuff. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so this is your only deal. Well, warning signs are going off because they're trying to push you to action without giving you an opportunity to think about it. And that's what's been happening. They come up to they canvass neighborhoods. They actually stop cars. In one instance, they stopped a car leaving the neighborhood and asked the person if they wanted their driveway done. They went door to door, and once they get one person in the neighborhood to do that job, they can always say to the next neighbor, oh yeah, we just did the job in Mrs. Smith's house. And they'll just go down the neighborhood, one after the other. And they have their trucks there, and they come out. They're there for a couple of hours. They make it look good in some instances, where they put a thin coat on, or they put a lot of blacktop down, but they don't compress it well enough, so it's just going to flake apart and fall apart after a year or less. Or worse, that they come in and all they do is for lack of a better term, they spray paint the driveway. They put the black tar down thinly, and it looks really nice, but it's not going to last at all. And it ends up, they charge people, they don't tell people what they're charging ahead of time. They don't do a good job, and they're gone, and you can never find them. They have telephone numbers that are out of the area. They do not give you addresses of where they're from. And that's actually all in violation of law. For those of you who may have watched us or have been here, in the last couple of months, one of the programs that we do is home improvement contracts. And again, I've gone over it quickly, but one of the things that everyone needs to know is that if there's a home improvement contract, which is any home improvement above $500, so that's hardly anything, it must be in writing. The contractor must provide you something in writing. It has to be signed by both the homeowner and the contractor. The contract has to have the name and the address and contact information for the contractor. These fly-by-nighters that show up at your door just bring you a blank proposal form. It has no name at the top of the company. They might hand write in something and hand write in a cell phone number. And that's it. They don't, and then frequently they don't even give that to you ahead of the job. They'll tell you, oh, we're going to charge you X number of dollars per square foot. Well, then they don't do the math right, and the square footage is way off, way too high. And then they'll say to you, oh yeah, we had a little bit more of a problem because we had to do a little bit more, a little bit here, so an extra $500 or $800 for this. So they're required to give you a contract, to put their name, address, telephone number, describe exactly what they're going to do, put the price on that they're going to do it for you for, so that you know ahead of time. And if those of you remember when I've been out here talking about home improvement contracts, this is one of the rare instances where you have 3 business days to cancel. So what they'll do is they'll come right in, they'll do it, they'll push you to get the money. You go to the bank and get it. When you write them a check, the first thing they're going to do is one of that crew will run down to your bank and cash the check. They will go right down and do that. Technically, they're supposed to give you 3 business days to cancel. And that 3 business days is waivable, but only in the case of an emergency. And I haven't heard of anybody having a driveway emergency. Second of all, the waiver of the 3 days must be in the writing of the homeowner explaining the reason why and waiving the 3 days. Here's our classic example. Your furnace goes on January 2nd. You can't wait 3 days to get that furnace replaced. It's got to be replaced right away. The homeowner would write down on the contract, waiving 3 business days because I need my furnace in January, and sign it. And that's good. You can waive that. But when somebody comes door to door to put down your driveway, there's no 3-day emergency that needs to have taken place. So you should be given it, and that should be another warning sign. If they're not giving you the 3 business days to cancel, then right there it tells you there's a possible scam. So we're seeing that happening. We're seeing crews going through neighborhoods doing that sort of thing. I guess my best word of advice on that particular topic is never, ever accept a home improvement contract or work by someone who's going door to door. You can't check references. You can't do anything. So just immediately, no, do not accept that. What are some other ones? For senior citizens, we're seeing scams out there. The grandparent scam, where grandparents are receiving telephone calls from someone who identifies them as their grandchild, and that the grandchild is in trouble and needs money to get out of that trouble, and asks the grandparent to wire the funds out. It's a scam. I would encourage grandparents to, first of all, I would encourage grandchildren. Don't be pulling stunts like that. If you get in trouble, you got to take your medicine. Don't be calling grandpa and grandma to bail you out of trouble. Grandpas and grandmas, I know you love your grandchildren, but give yourself time to think about these sorts of things. First of all, would your grandchild really call you to bail them out? Wouldn't it be more appropriate for them to call their parents? I know my children, who are older now, I would hope that if something happened and they got in trouble or they had an accident, that I would be the first person they would call, not my parents. So that should tip you off. Also, some of the things that they'll do is they'll say, Grandma, this is your favorite grandson. I got in a little trouble, and the person may not even know who the grandson is. And what the grandmother says, Timmy? Yeah, Timmy. And all of a sudden you've just given the name to the person who has called you. Do not fall for those types of scams. Hang up the phone. Those of you that really would bail out your grandchild and expect the grandchild to call you, maybe you can go another step and say, okay, Timmy, what was your dog's name when you were a little kid? Because the scam artists may know Timmy's name, but may not know Timmy's dog's name when Timmy was growing up. Or what street did you live on when you were in grade school or whatever. There may be things that you know of that the grandchild will know, but only the grandchild would know, not someone who is calling as a scam artist. So that's another way that you might be able to go toward protecting yourself. Also, we're seeing solicitations by organizations who I've seen who do or purportedly do lobbying on behalf of senior citizen type issues. One big one is protection of Social Security Trust Fund. Oh, the Social Security Trust Fund is going down the tubes, and we're there to help you, but we need your funds to help us. And I've seen one more recently that has said that they call themselves the Senior Center. And it's actually a lobbying organization out of Washington that takes in a couple of $1 million a year. And they claim that they owe, in one instance, they owed $31,000 or something that they had to pay. And in order, if this debt didn't get paid, then they would not be able to continue their lobbying efforts and ask people to donate $10 or whatever and send it in. And I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is that you need to be a good consumer and investigate and see what the heck is going on here. And really, is that organization doing what it claims to be doing? All charitable organizations in New York, raising funds in New York or holding funds in New York, must be registered with the New York State Attorney General's office, my office. They must be registered. And, for your convenience, we have a website called charitiesnys.com. You can go to that website, and there's a box in there to look up the charity. And you can look it up. Not only can you look up the charity, but you can actually look up their tax returns because they file their tax returns with our office. And you can see how much money they take in every year. You can see what their money goes for. Does it go for fundraising costs, which a lot of them do. How much of the money go toward the programs that you really want to support? And then you, as an informed consumer, can make that determination whether or not you really want to give to those types of organizations or not. So be very careful about this and any other types of charitable solicitations. Another thing that is particularly problematic is our use of the internet. Internet purchases, use of internet to sell things, buy things. Because we're a more convenience-based society, we want to, with an internet, we can post pictures of the thing we want to sell. We can view pictures of the thing we want to buy. We can see how much it is. We can get it. We can have it shipped to us. It's to our front door. It really has opened this whole market that we never had available to us. But we have to take it with a little bit of skepticism. One site in particular is Craigslist, which is a great site. And I've heard people have been very successful in buying and selling things. But let's be smart about this. We can use Ithaca for an example. A vast majority of the housing in Ithaca is rental housing. It's like 70% of the housing is rental housing. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have two colleges, a major university and a well-renowned college. And then you have TC3, so you have community college as well. And people presumably coming from out of the area to become part of the community to go to school. With Cornell University, it's an international college, a university. It's well-renowned, and people from all over the world will come here. And so what better thing than for someone in California or China to rent their apartment that they're going to have in Ithaca. They don't have to come to Ithaca. They can just go on the internet and go to Craigslist and look up rental housing for Ithaca and find a place, and there's pictures of it. It looks great, and the rent is really reasonable. And so what's the next thing that we expect? Well, the next thing we expect is we have to sign a lease and pay our security deposit and pay the first month's rent or the last month's rent or whatever. So pay something. So they don't think twice about it. So they download the lease and they sign it and scan it and send it back to the landlord, and then they send them the money. And lo and behold, they'll come to Ithaca and find out that was not available for them. It was someone who stole the pictures off. It may have been that the house was being sold and the pictures were on a multiple listing service. And they've taken those pictures and pilfered them, put them out as if the place was going to be rented. It took money in, and all of a sudden the person shows up to Ithaca for the start of the semester, and they have nothing. We really need to be good consumers. And before we're spending money on these things, we actually have to go and look at the place and make sure. But it can even be worse. I don't want to scare everybody and ruin the whole thing, but there have been known, I'm not saying not in Ithaca, but in other areas have been known where people have found vacant houses and have broken into them and then made arrangements to show that house to somebody to rent, and the person showed up and paid the rent, and the person ended up taking off, and then the owner comes back later on, and all of a sudden their house is being lived in by somebody. Those of you who are going for any extended period of time, have somebody check on your place periodically just to be sure everything is okay. But these people will stoop to anything to accomplish their task. So be very careful when you're purchasing anything. Even those of you who may go the old route and have a bed for sale, and you take out an advertisement in the classified section of the newspaper. Well, a lot of the classified sections are now available on the newspaper's website, internet site. And you could very easily be contacted by a scam artist, even though you never intended to have it published. It was published, and they got their hands on it, and it was contacted. I had a number of people who said, yeah, I went to sell something on eBay, or not on eBay, on the internet, or I took an ad out in the Ithaca Journal and got contacted by somebody from England who wanted the bed. Well, come on. They're not going to want the bed from England. And how does that scam play out? Well, what ends up happening is they said that they'll send you a check. And they send you a check, and it's a bogus check. They ask you to deposit the check, and within a couple of days, they're going to contact you to say one of two things. One is we can't come and get the thing. We decided we couldn't go ahead with the deal. Can you wire us the money back? Or they're going to send you a check. Your bet is $500, and they send you a check for $2,500. They say, just cash the check and keep $500 for yourself. Plus, we want you to ship the bed to us, so keep the shipping costs. And then would you please wire us the difference back? And it turns out that down the road, that check bounced that you originally deposited, yet you have already wired the money out, and your money's gone. It's a classic scam. It's been there for a long time. It's almost a given that if you put something out on Craigslist or you put something in the classified section, at least one person who will contact you will be a scam artist. So you need to be very careful. Again, it's the greatest thing in the world. And if you want to use Craigslist, my recommendation to you is to say, yes, we're selling our bed. and a person contacts you, you say to them, I only will deal with someone who will come and pick it up and pay us when you show up. That will help to get rid of people who are just trying to contact you by going over the internet. Make sure you know who you're dealing with. Make sure also that you're on a secure website when you're giving out any, like if you're going to buy something, make sure you're on a secure site. I suggest that you stick with reputable sites, not these ones that, are just some type of joesbeds.com kind of thing. Some that you know of that you can contact. You can go to the Better Business Bureau website at bbb.org and look up a company if you are planning on dealing with them. That's not the end-all and be-all, but it is a little bit of a help along the way. Therefore, you can take the steps necessary to reduce the probability that you're going to be victimized by a scam. Work-at-home scams. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Somebody is not going to pay you a gazillion dollars to sit and read things at home when you're solicited over the internet. It just doesn't. It just sounds too good to be true. Secret shoppers are frequently solicited over the internet. Secret shopper scams, where they say, go into a store and you have to evaluate the clerks and evaluate its convenience and the products that they have, and then send the report back to us. And when you send the report back, we'll pay you. If it sounds too good to be true, somebody would already be doing that job. They aren't just sending you an email and all of a sudden you're going to get this greatest job in the world. Be very careful about these sorts of things. Payday loans is another huge one. People are getting, what's a payday loan? Payday loan is a short-term, high-interest rate loan. Actually, it's frequently given to people from Indian reservations. And part of the reasons for that is because they're separate entities in of themselves, not governed by the federal or state laws. And so they don't have the limits on the interest rates that state and federal laws have. And people are getting these loans, and they're payday loans. They're like to get you to the next payday. Just, you need a little bit of, and they're 200% interest or more on these things. I mean, it's really unbelievable. And people are signing up for these things and getting loans and never being able to pay the things off. If you can't get a legitimate loan, do not fall for these payday loans. You will never be able to dig yourself out. Before you sign up for any loan, know all the terms. What's the interest rate? How long is it going to take you to pay back? It really, really is confiscating of all your money. That you'll lose that entire paycheck and more in trying to pay these things back. Stay away from these things. They're on the internet. They're all over the place. Stay away. One of the biggest consumer fraud that is out there nowadays is identity theft. We do a whole session on it. Is simply taking your personal identification information, going out, getting loans in your name, getting driver's license in your name, getting medical procedures done in your name, getting employment in your name, doing all types of things, stealing your personal identification information. Personal identification information is not just your social security number. It's where you live, it's where you work, it's your kids' names, it's your dog's name, it's any information that's personal to you is personal identification information, and you want to keep it as personal to you as possible. You don't give that information out to someone that you don't know. And a good line of, a good immediate reaction thought process is, Never give out personal identification information to someone who contacts you. Think about it. Somebody contacts you asking for personal information. You don't know who that person is. Even if, let's say it's on the telephone, even if they say they're so-and-so, they may not be so-and-so. They send you an email. It may look like an email that came from someone you do know. It could be that their email address book had been compromised and somebody took that. So you don't know who this person is who's contacting you. So you never give out personal information, credit card numbers, bank account numbers, name, address, where you work, anything. You never give out personal information to someone who contacts you, regardless of how they contact you. You're much more apt to protect yourself if the person that you're giving the information to is somebody that you contacted. Now, when I say you contacted, that means it's somebody that you looked up the number for your bank and talked to them. You went on your bank's website and contacted them. So you're putting in your account number or something on your bank's website. You didn't put in personal information as a result of you getting an email from purportedly your bank and you're replying to that. Because again, then you're giving out information to somebody that you don't know because it's somebody who contacted you. However, if you went directly and typed in your bank's website and got to that, and you're familiar with your bank's website, you're much more apt to be protected. So you call your bank on the phone. You call a merchant on the phone. You're more apt to have looked up that telephone number for that merchant rather than somebody calling you saying that they are the merchant. So you go a long way toward protecting yourself if it's someone that you contact. Identity theft involves stealing your credit card numbers, your bank account numbers, your PINs, your passwords, those sorts of things. They can mess up your entire financial situation. You want to make sure that you protect yourself from that. You don't want to give out that information freely. Protect the information in your home. If you are throwing out documents that have personal information on them, shred them, destroy them before you get rid of them. Don't just throw them in the recycle bin where somebody has access to those things. So you want to find a way to protect yourself to prevent that from happening. One of the other big, huge things that we're seeing, it's just never ends, it continues on and on and on, are sweepstakes scams. People are receiving notifications by mail, by internet that they have won, and they're being told, congratulations, you won. And the bottom line with sweepstakes is you never spend money to receive money. So you never send in money to claim a prize that you're going to get money back on. It just doesn't work that way. You never do that. And scam artists have learned that people aren't doing that. So what do they do now? What they do now is that they will send you a letter saying, congratulations, you won, similar to one that I have even here that says that this sweepstakes was the Royal Allied Disbursements Verification Center in Ontario. And it says that they've won $250,780. And in advance of that, you say, well, that's a scam. But in advance of that, they also send an attachment, which I just have a photocopy, but it's a check. But I have oodles of them. I have all kinds of bank checks. Just check after check after check of varying amounts. $4,950. $5,690.45, $2,500, all looking like bank checks. This one is from the State of Florida Disbursement Unit. And in actuality, I'm not saying that this is, but in actuality, some of these may be legitimate banks and may have been legitimate accounts at one point in time. But in this day and age, with computers and scanning equipment and good paper and nice printers, they can they can recreate these things to look exactly like a bank check. And those of you on TV can't see this, but on the back of this particular check has all the different light blue writing that a lot of your bank checks will have. I have a Walmart money order that is all bogus. All these things are fake. And what they hope to have you do is exactly what we talked about earlier in this session, which is they want you to go down to the bank and put this check in your account and then watch your bank account. In this case, it was $3,920. You go down, you deposit this check in your bank account, and within 48 hours, you are going to have your bank account go up by $3,920. That's, you think, an indication that the check has cleared. That tells you the check is cleared. Hey, I can use the money. Well, that's not the case. What you've been given is a thing called a provisional credit. Every check we deposit, we can use those funds as a provisional credit. And the provision is you can use the funds provided they ultimately clear. And if they don't ultimately clear, it's your responsibility. And what the scam artist is hoping to get you to do is to play on that float. Well, this is going through the Federal Reserve clearing process. They're hoping that you will think that it's cleared and that you will then send out money to them. And what you're doing is sending out money that may not be in your account. And what you did was you deposited a check, but you wired out cash. And when you wire out cash, it's gone. You're never to get it back. But then you find out a week or two later that the check bounced. And the bank says to you that money that you sent out, we're taking back from you. You say, but you let me take the money. No. You have a provisional credit. The bottom line law is that we are responsible for each check we cash. Each check we deposit in our bank account. If that check proves to bounce, it's our responsibility. It's not the bank's fault. It's our fault, the person who made the deposit. That's why we get the charges for the bad check fees and stuff. It's our responsibility. And that's the way that it is. So that check that you deposit is your responsibility, regardless of the fact that you don't know who these people are. You just deposited the check. Who's in the best position to determine whether or not that check is good? It's the person who's making the deposit, because they know who it came from. Now, it could have come from a scam artist, but at least you should know who it is that you're getting checks from that you deposit. And that's the way the law is set up. It does not put the burden on the bank. And so when that check ultimately bounces and you've already sent out the money to claim your prize, what happens is they say, you've won, in this case it was $250,000. You won $250,000. There's tax associated with, what do they call it in this case? I believe they call it a fee. Doesn't say on here, or on this particular page. There's a separate page that says it's an insurance charge. And it says, we have advanced the money to you. It's for processing fees. It could be taxes, it could be processing fees, it could be whatever. And they say, okay, there's fees associated with us sending you your $250,000. So to help you out with that, we're going to send you a check that's attached to pay the fees. Deposit the check. Once it clears, send us the money, and then shortly thereafter, we will be able to get you the balance of your award winning. So you're sitting there after you've sent the money out, just waiting for the rest of your prize winnings to come, and it never does. And then you get notified by your bank, oh, that check that you deposited and you sent out money, it's no good. And therefore, we're taking it out of your account, or, God forbid, you didn't have it in your account to begin with, you owe us the money. Give it back to us. They have every right to do that, and the scam artists are off running away with your money. They are all scams. legitimate sweepstakes do not have you pay any funds in advance of you receiving your claim. They take the money off the top so that your prize winnings are that much less because they've taken the fees and things out of it. Have them do that for you. Don't pay anything in advance. If you are asked to pay something in advance, it's a scam. Now, you don't have to send it to me. As you can see, I have many, many, many examples. This is just the tip of the iceberg that I have. Periodically, people will send these to me, and I keep them around just to be able to show you. But they are all scams. If you want to deposit the check thinking that you've won, congratulations. I can almost guarantee you did not. But let it sit in your account for weeks to make sure that it ultimately cleared. I can assure you that it will not clear. You are better off just throwing it away. The other thing that, you know how I talked about initially, we somehow lose all common sense when things like that happen. Somebody hears that they won the sweepstakes and they lose all common sense. I can't tell you the number of people that have fallen for this thing just in the Binghamton region, which would include Tompkins County. It's just mind-boggling how many people fall for this thing. And I sit there and I say, let's talk about what we talked about at first. What if your friend came to you and said, hey, I just won XYZ sweepstakes, and I got this check, and what do you think? You, not having won, don't get blinded by the fact is, I won, and all the blinders go on, and you completely lose all rationality. You sit there and you say, did you ever enter? You never entered the sweepstakes to begin with. How can you win if you never entered? Second of all, why would somebody send you a check when they have $250,000 of your dollars and can just take it out of that? Why is that? So it doesn't make sense that it happened that way, but people fall for it all the time. So if that ever happens to you, it is a scam. Don't get too excited. You haven't won anything. I used to use the example. I can't use it anymore because he's not around anymore. But I say, don't consider yourself having won until Ed McMahon shows up at your house with a bouquet of balloons saying congratulations that you've won. There are many types of scams out there. You need to be a good consumer in protecting yourself. If you do that, you will go a long way toward not falling prey and having people take your money away from you. If there are any questions about scams, frauds, that sort of thing, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming and joining us. I hope that you'll come and join us out here at Cornell Cooperative Extension in the future. It's always fun to have people here to ask questions and to react and to think about things as we're talking about them. So come and join us. Thank you.